All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's about 5:32, so we'll go ahead and get started. Again, we'd like to thank you all for attending. Wanted to introduce myself. My name is Michael Delatorre. I am National Core Senior Vice President of the LA region. I oversee the acquisition process, securing financing, and development approvals. Thank you all for attending tonight. We know this issue has been on your minds for the last several weeks, and we're grateful for the opportunity to share our evolving plans for the 740 East Foothill community. We've activated the webinar's Q&A system to gather your questions. We'll address your questions at the end of tonight's information session and incorporate them into the community outreach events we have planned coming up on May 25th as well as June 3rd. Our expectation is that tonight's event will run for about an hour. We don't want to run into the time for the San Dimas City Council meeting. Joining me tonight as speakers are Lorraine Kindred and AJ Galka. Lorraine Kindred is National Core's Vice President of Public Affairs. Lorraine has worked on affordable housing programs and solutions for 20 years. She has led National Core's federal, state, and local government relations and community outreach efforts since 2019. AJ is National Core's Director of Permanent Supportive Housing and Residential Services. AJ has worked in social service field for almost 2 decades in both LA County and San Diego County, coordinating services in various capacities. Her areas of specialty include serving and designing programming for homelessness, folks at risk of homelessness, and other vulnerable populations. In addition to our speakers, we're being joined tonight by representatives of Supervisor Catherine Barger's office, the LACDA, and advocates for services for people experiencing homelessness in LA County. We'll share with them your input as we proceed. We'll now begin with an introduction to National Core from Lorraine.
Thank you, Michael, and good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name, as Michael mentioned, is Lorraine Kindred. I'm Vice President of Public Affairs for National Core, and I'm happy to kick off our first meeting to provide you with information and facts about this development. You know, 67,000 unhoused individuals in LA County is 67,000 too many. So who are we and what do we do? National Core is a National Community Renaissance, known as National Core, is a 503c nonprofit affordable housing developer. Our affiliate company is the Hope Through Housing Foundation that provides wraparound services for all of our residents. Our organizations strongly believe that both people and place matter, and leading a healthy lifestyle starts with the basic requirement of having stable and affordable housing. Our first motto was Mission Heart, Business Mind, and it truly accurately defines us. Many of our developments are within neighborhoods that are revitalized and serve those who need and deserve housing. We often see our communities becoming a catalyst to provide new investment and community services for local residents. You should know that our services are free to our residents. National Core was founded in Rancho Cucamonga in 1992. So we're over 30 years young, and we have grown to become one of the nation's largest affordable housing developers. We currently employ over 500 employees across California, Florida, and Texas, and operate 10,000 units of affordable housing. We have more than 10 developments currently under construction throughout Southern California to house working families, veterans, foster care youth aging out of the foster care system, and our valued seniors. We're a full-service organization with our own departments in acquisitions, planning and development, our own construction team, our own on-site property management, our compliance team, our asset management team, and as I mentioned, our Hope Through Housing Foundation to provide resident services. We are a full service organization and do everything in-house to ensure that we maintain our properties in the best possible shape and continue to comply with all rules and regulations that govern affordable housing. National Core is an owner-operator that provides on-site property management. Our services include 24-hour presence of our highly trained property management team, tenant screening, parking management, on-site security. When we create a community, we don't just focus on one aspect of the development. We ensure all elements work in concert to ensure long-term success. That is part of our commitment to our residents and to the larger community and to you. We hold on to our properties in perpetuity. We don't just build and fill and go. We work with our residents for as long as they need us. We're there for them. Our oldest properties are maintained at the highest level, looking as good as our newest developments. Just a few pictures of recent senior properties that we built, managed, and currently manage. As a result of our high quality design and cutting edge innovations, we are responsible for creating beautiful apartment homes for the state's most vulnerable populations. The seniors, which is the largest growing demographic of homelessness in the state. It's not all what you just see. We are especially proud of recently opened developments in both Glendale, which is a 66-unit senior apartment home community, and also in Rancho Cucamonga, which is a 140-unit senior community, and all our communities created to serve seniors and residents who have experienced homelessness and are homeless now no more. Over the years, National Core has won more than 150 awards for the quality of our developments, winning awards over market rate developers time and time again because our buildings are of superior quality and architectural design. We are very proud and have our own experts regarding our sustainable communities. National Core prides itself on incorporating sustainable design into each of our developments. This new development, at a minimum, will include drought-tolerant landscaping, solar energy-driven heating, as well as cooling and water-efficient fixtures. There will also be EV charging stations at select spots. By utilizing a net zero energy solar system, we strive not only to reduce the carbon footprint, but to pass along energy savings to our residents through lower utility bills. I'm going to turn back to my colleague, Michael, who will now address the housing need. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. So who does this housing serve? Again, we're here tonight to discuss our development plans for 740 East Foothill in unincorporated Los Angeles County. We're adjacent to San Dimas and Laverne. As many of you know, in response to community concerns, we're limiting the community to seniors who have experienced homelessness. California, especially Los Angeles County, is experiencing an unprecedented crisis in housing and homelessness that affects all of us. It's a challenge that will require all of us to step up and do our part. Seniors at risk. Did you know seniors are one of the fastest growing populations experiencing homelessness? The number of those seeking services in Los Angeles County nearly doubled in just 5 years. Literally, one significant health care issue can put a senior at risk of becoming homelessness. We know one community won't solve this issue. Tackling homelessness is a major undertaking that requires a complex approach by a multitude of communities and agencies across the state, blending an array of services, shelters, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing. Each new development is one more step toward achieving this long-term goal. Our plans for the 740 East Foothill community were launched in late 2022 when we submitted a proposal for funding. National Corps prepared an application for LACDA funding, and the development scored well based on its alignment with the county's housing priorities. The NOFA selection process is based strictly on eligibility and scoring. Being recommended for funding, it begins and starts our community outreach process. Again, this development is located in an unincorporated county of Los Angeles. The land was chosen because the site at the time was vacant. It was an underutilized site, and it was zoned for multifamily. The location is within close proximity of public transportation, medical clinics, pharmacies, grocery stores. These are some of the reasons why the site was selected. Again, existing zoning and state law allow for development of multifamily housing on this property, whether National Corps develop it or another developer. Many of you know our initial plans involved a 5-story building with 53 units to serve residents and 1 unit for an on-site manager. We've begun the process to refine the scope of those plans based on some of the feedback we've heard from this community. In keeping with our design standards, our plans for the homes uniformly feature high quality designs. Here are some examples of our typical apartment homes across all of our communities. We will also be providing a suite of amenities, including gathering spaces, access to technology, and recreational facilities. Studies show that affordable housing developments can improve neighborhoods and promote local economic development. This includes the creation of new jobs in construction, management, and services at the property. The development itself will add value to the land on which it stands, and the new residents will frequent local services and shops. In addition, the site will be beautified, feature new amenities and infrastructure improvements. Our program includes much more than the physical spaces. Dr. Galka will take you through those elements of the development plan.
Thank you so much, Michael. As Michael mentioned, my name is AJ Galka. I'm Director of Permanent Supportive Housing and Residential Services. Hope Through Housing is a key sister nonprofit of National Corps, launched over 25 years ago, targets services for each of our resident populations that we serve all throughout the state of California and Texas. Around 8,500 units within the portfolio and around 80 developments. We serve a variety of populations that include families, adults, veterans, seniors, disabled households, and some have experienced homelessness. One of our partners, along with Hope Through Housing for this project for services, is a dynamic project or dynamic partner of the people concerned, an agency possessing over 56 years experience in serving our most vulnerable communities. Their program includes the following services, as just to name a few: intensive case management, benefits consulting and advocacy, physical health care, peer support and advocacy, legal assistance, medication management, transportation services, employment services, life skills, social activities. For resident services, we truly hope to improve lives, looking at the social determinants of health, hitting from all different areas. At our 740 Foothill community, Hope Through Housing and the people concerned will work with the Los Angeles County Behavioral Health Services to provide resources and support our residents. This will include an on-site social worker and residential service coordinator, on-site resource activity coordination for health, wellness, and social community building activities. On-site social worker providing intensive case management wraparound for all residents. coordination and retention intervention ongoing for each resident with the whatever it takes mindset. In the photos you see here, you can see various activities we've had at our senior sites. The one on the bottom right is a pantry that's open to residents of that community. They can come and get essentials, perishables, non-perishables, working with the local food bank and other nonprofits and churches. For this section, we'll review an overview of supportive housing. To emphasize, this is not a shelter. This is permanent housing. Residents are leaseholders. They're independent like you or I, and they go in and rent their home and reside in just like anyone else. There is a core set of standards and expectations associated to permanent supportive housing and services designed to help individuals who have experienced homelessness and are indefinitely disabled. The screening is fairly rigorous, done in collaboration with the county. Things like manufacturing, distribution of meth, sex offender status like an AB 109, evicted from HUD or public funded housing in the past with a ban are not allowed. Additional things to highlight are key elements of supportive housing. The affordability factor to ensure that retention piece if you're on a fixed income, like most of our seniors are. Safety and comfort, quality home, areas that they can congregate, connect with each other, and truly build community and a support network. Supportive services that are accessible, flexible, and target residential stability, meaning someone might be a morning person and someone might be a late night owl. We'll make sure that we adapt services to meet their needs and find each and every single person's motivator. We seek empowerment and independence for each of our residents, meaning they're not conserved, they're independent leaseholders, and we treat them as such. We find, again, ways to motivate them, to inspire positive change and positive life impact. So how does it work? For permanent supportive housing, it starts in the earliest stages of development, whether it be the flow of the building, community spaces, ensuring as people walk in, the case manager office can actually see people walk in to catch them and connect with them, ensuring there's a nice sized community space with amenities like a television for movie night, kitchen spaces for potlucks and connection with each other and food, ensuring that we have ample community partnerships on site, churches volunteering, and various volunteer groups coming on site. Looking at the size and the amenities of the units, the security and the safety of the units at utmost, with cameras, on-site security, key fobs, and so forth. Really true ownership of the community. We have other sites that have community gardens and things like that, which have done amazing things and impact for the residents. Funder requirements. Obviously, there's funding that's associated to the program and the site itself. HUD loves to see resident retention and stability. So do we. So we do whatever it takes. We focus on HUD's main objectives of obtaining that housing and keeping it, figuring out ways to support people for anything that they need. Obtain and maintain increased benefits. A lot of our seniors on fixed income. So most of the time it won't go up. So having that affordability factor is key. Self-determination goal is definitely connecting with family, friends, creating that support network, tending to their health and wellness. And now they have a home, so they actually have a chance to do that. Looking at resident access, engagement to service and programming, like I mentioned before, figuring out times of day, what works best for residents on site. And then the last circle is ongoing oversight. We all can develop a beautiful site with these ideal programs that we all think are perfect. But the one thing we need is the feedback from the residents. Oftentimes we might think they want a cooking class with Kaiser or another health provider, and they might prefer doing Tango. So really looking at what people would prefer to do and surveying folks annually, getting feedback, and really shaping the program around the community that resides there. Some best practices we have within permanent supportive housing include communication amongst all partners. Property management, having them internal within National Core is so pivotal. We're able to coordinate, able to intervene, able to keep updated on certain things that are going on site, and we're able to really coordinate supportive efforts to ensure someone stays housed. It could be a simple thing, someone doesn't know how to use their thermostat because it's high tech, or it could be something like a convection oven, a new feature, something that they weren't used to working. Case managers engaged from the start, meaning most of the time when we do lease ups, if not all the time, case managers are with that person filling out the application, coming to orientation, helping them get their keys with property management and on-site services to go into that unit, make it their home, and stay with them throughout the duration with the people concerned and Hope Through Housing. Adaptability and change and leveraging resources, like I mentioned, community partnerships and volunteer groups, cultivated community overall that supports residents to thrive. The photographs you see here, one in the middle is a senior property. This individual moved in. We provide moving kits, comprehensive, filled with cleaning supplies, cleaning utensils, brooms, dustpans, dusters, plates, everything you could possibly think that you need in that kitchen, that bathroom, shower curtains, bath mats, even furniture we provide to ensure that they have the best setup to be successful and call their home right away. Some benefits of housing: 85% or more households remain housed after a year. One of our sites that I just did calculations for recently in San Ysidro has over a 90% retention rate. It takes work, yes, but it takes coordination for everything, of course. But folks stay housed, they find hobbies, they connect with each other, and they thrive. Permanent supportive housing reduces costs for healthcare, justice system. Permanent supportive housing improves quality of life and builds local supports. One example I love to share is stories we're seeing more and more to really demystify who we think is homeless or who we think is a senior that's homeless, are those that are educated, that have worked for their whole life, that have literally got derailed by health condition, a partner dying. Those things really set people off that course, and oftentimes on the streets and homeless. So we're able to give that gift, that privilege of connecting with housing and the supports, and able to stay housed throughout the duration of their lifetime. Next, we're going to share a video that is beautiful. It is a showcase of one of our sites that serves our veterans. It shows someone moving into their home, the preciousness of our property management, being so involved and so supportive in the lives of their residents, as well as services on site. So please enjoy.
I served in the United States Marine Corps. I served for 7 years. Like when I used to get up in the mornings, I would go and do what I got to do, but then towards it's time to wind down the day, I wouldn't have nowhere to go. It took 24 years to get here, but I'm getting something brand new, so I'm gonna take care of it and keep it clean, and then my family don't have to worry about me as much, knowing that I'm off the streets now. So.
Veterans Park is an affordable housing community that specializes just for our veterans, our homeless veterans, and our affordable families that have a veteran in their home. I love National Corps. I love our mission. This property really has made me love what we do even more. Our veterans deserve so much more than they're given. So to be able to be their manager here is truly a blessing. They don't have to worry about where they're going to sleep at night. They don't have to worry about all the chaos that may be going on in the world, and they can be safe. And the big thing is to see their lives turn around. Being here at this property has been amazing.
Thank you, AJ. So that concludes our presentation. We wrapped up about 5 minutes early, but the goal of this was to really engage in some of the Q&A. That leaves us with a little over 30 minutes to run through some of the questions that have been coming through in the chat. We're gonna kick this to Sarah to introduce a question that are popping up, and then we will kind of pick it and pivot to the person who could answer. So go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much, Michael. So kind of going through the Q&A, there's a number of questions in here, and just to kind of let you know ahead of time, there are a number of questions that we may or may not be able to get to tonight, just based on the number. If we're not able to get to them, we're going to try our best to ensure that we update the FAQ that is on the website so that you can find answers there after the webinar. We also have 2 upcoming meetings, so there will be additional opportunities to ask questions or to find the answers to those questions. In some instances, if we don't answer tonight, we will attempt to answer those at an upcoming meeting. So the first question that I'm seeing in here is about the site location and how this site was chosen and how it was determined to be appropriate for housing, especially given that there was a market operating on site. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Michael to talk about that.
Yeah, so this site was vacant for many years. This was the before Olives, it was the Altadena market. Again, it was an underutilized parcel. It's zoned for multifamily. The proximity to amenities that we look for when we're exploring, the possibility of sites was one of the reason. Again, I know we're getting a lot of the questions on Olives market. When we achieve site control on this, our understanding is, Olives Market was aware that this would be an affordable housing development, but those are some of the reasons that we selected, for our site selection on this development. So zoning, trying to develop an underutilized underutilized lot. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, kind of similarly along those lines, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and have you also answer. There was a question about the Montessori school and how we will propose to ensure the safety of children that are attending schools in the vicinity, as well as residents that live in the surrounding area.
Sure. So permanent supportive housing communities, they're just that, they're communities of residents. Our residents, they undergo a screening process in collaboration with the county. Many of our housing communities have, include children, families. We haven't had any issues. Working with the supervisor's office, again, we're going to be focusing on seniors age 55 and higher. Our experience has been, we've had less issues with this population. And again, National Core staff is on site every single day. We have 24-hour property management. We have on-site resident services, as well as our partnership with the people concerned. We will have case managers on site every single day. And we also have a zero tolerance policy for criminal activities.
Okay, thank you. There's a question related to the height of the development. There's a number of comments about the fact that the development is intended to be at this point in time 5 stories high. And I am going to go ahead and turn this over to Lorraine to answer this question.
Sure, thank you, Sarah. Of course, this has been a real issue, and we hear you. The initial plans called for 5 stories and 54 units. But based on what is allowed by the county's zoning code and density bonus provisions would provide incentives for the development of affordable housing. So National Core is reviewing and updating the development design in response to your feedback in the community. We hope to provide an update on the scope of the development at one of our upcoming sessions. So hold tight.
Again, it sounds like Lorraine, on either May 25th or the June 3rd meeting, we should hopefully have an updated concept or design to that we will seek input on.
Yes.
Okay, great. There is a question here about the number of parking spaces and whether 19 spaces is truly adequate to serve the residents and employees that are working on site. Lorraine, would you be able to answer this one as well?
Sure. Well, LA County requires no parking spaces for this type of development. The goal is to house humans over cars. Still, the development's 19 proposed spaces, 0.35 spaces per unit, is more than the 0.25 spaces per unit the national studies indicate would be needed. So in reality, we know that many residents can't afford to own their own vehicle when they first move in. At the point where they can afford one, they often no longer qualify to live in the development and move into other forms of affordable housing. So whether you are an affordable developer or a market rate developer, you do have some mandatory requirements for parking that we're following.
All right, thank you. I have a question for AJ here. There is a question about how National Core monitors and enforces that only people that are on the lease are the ones that are actually living in the housing units.
Definitely. So unauthorized guests is a common thing even across market rate. For that, it's inspections, part of the process with tax credits and vouchers are annual inspections. The blessing with this project also is working with providers. So working side by side with providers and property management, whether we're dropping off groceries or a cup of coffee, oftentimes when something like that happens, we can catch it right away. We can have a conversation, create an educational space to say, this risks your tenancy or your residency here at this site. So really going through that process of, cause and effect if you make this choice. And we've been very successful in working with people, with that choice making, realizing that there is an impact to making that choice. In some cases, if it was someone else that needed housing themselves, we're able to connect them to local services, get them connected to someone that can work with them in housing as well. And that's been a blessing as well.
Okay, great. And kind of, I think another question that you might be able to help address is a question about inspections and whether units are inspected and kind of how we manage, I think, kind of on-site operations and just make sure that our properties are kind of maintained and clean and that, resident units are safe and orderly.
Definitely. This definitely stems from our amazing property management department and their facilities teams, along with the community itself and services reinforcing things and educating. So we have on-site facilities that come through and help with landscaping, making sure trash receptacles are changed. During the height of the pandemic, there were stations for hand sanitizer everywhere, and working through those logistics. We have those as the little pump bottles throughout the site. Property management also has a piece when people sign their leases. They go over the key pieces about the community areas, your unit, how to maintain it. And the reinforcement comes in, meaning the services. They can create fun ways to create cleaning schedules, looking at the tools that they get with their moving kit, how to use some of the products if they haven't used them in a while or they've never used them at all. Really looking at those key pieces and working collaboratively to maintain the sites. As for inspections, property management is absolutely amazing on this. They really not only take it as a compliance thing, but they look at it also as a way to educate folks. So they look at it and they provide a checklist so that person who lives in that unit really knows what to expect. It's scary enough to have someone come in your home and judge it and look at, is this on the stove? Do you need to clear the counter? There's key things like a pathway for, exits and entryways. And the checklist is amazing because it helps them mentally prepare. It helps them, if they're not sure what this means, they can ask their providers. They can do prep, meaning it's scheduled. They can work with the actual providers to walk through the unit, see areas that they need to work through. One example related to this is we had a senior who was a teacher and he loved books. He loved them. He had too many books though. So we had to work with him to kind of organize the books, get a shelf for the books because they were in the way of the right-of-way and entryway. But it was a beautiful learning experience and it was a good, work through to preserve the books that he loved so dearly from his teaching days and make sure that he passes inspection. But it was win-win. And again, it was a collaboration, not only with us, like services, property management, facilities, the residents and service providers working collectively.
Okay, thanks, AJ. There's actually a number of other questions kind of about operations and residents. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of continue on that vein, if that's okay. So another question related to this is whether the residents are drug and alcohol tested.
So no, just like you or I, if we're in our unit, we are not going to get drug or alcohol tested. As an American in a unit, you have freedoms, and that's one of them. This is someone who has their own rental agreement. we have no grounds to do something like that. This is someone who, applied, got approved, and moved into their unit. So no, we do not do that. I could add, we do encourage people, if we see someone who's struggling, who's truly struggling and suffering, we will intervene and help them connect to resources. We'll work with them on connecting with community programs, other things like that, outpatient, inpatient, depending on the circumstances. But I mean, just like anyone, just like our family, our siblings, we connect them to what we can, but it's not our place on the property management side with that team to necessarily go into unless it disturbs the community.
Okay, and kind of similarly, well, I guess another question again about operations is can you describe what the 24-hour property management, like what does that mean for our properties, and what does National Core typically mean when they say that they provide that on site?
So I would say it is not literally property management, because they have usually families that live with them on site when they, stay in their units. But they're there during office hours. They're there to address major issues, in case there's, things that happen in your home. And for that, I would say we have security that helps with security monitoring by foot. They have folks that monitor cameras, monitor entryways. Sometimes people need to have an ambulance called if they're having health conditions or they fall, things like you or I would, have to do wherever we live. But for the 24-hour, I would be a little bit more clear on that. I would say they reside on site, but they don't necessarily work 24/7. That would be a tad unethical. But they're there to address emergencies and other things like that, along with security on foot.
Okay. All right, I'm going to switch gears for a minute. There are a number of anonymous comments about whether an environmental impact analysis has been done for this type of development. I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Michael to answer that one.
Yeah, so this project is CEQA exempt. This is part of, this is driven by state legislation to incentivize and prioritize housing. Again, California, Los Angeles County we're in a housing crisis. And so, this is state legislation to further housing. Again, Los Angeles County has, close to 70,000 homeless individuals, living right now.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then there's also a number of questions about the location in terms of access to amenities, meaning grocery stores, looks like pharmacy, just kind of how are residents going to be able to move around the neighborhood and access things that they may need for daily living.
Yeah, so again, a bus stop is down the, just down the street. We're close to a CVS, the park, the Vons, the family clinic. These are all amenities that we look for when we're identifying sites throughout the state of California. We often also partner with, other service providers, partnerships such as Dial a Ride to make sure that individuals to get to and from appointments, get to the grocery store. National Core often provides bus passes to our residents to incentivize utilizing public transportation. Some of the additional amenities that we like to provide on site are tech centers, making sure that residents have access to technology, as well as community centers, space inside where they can receive case management. And so that's just a few of our amenities on the site.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a question that I think Lorraine might be a good person to answer. This question is about why we are having meetings on Zoom at this time, and whether there will be any in-person opportunities to provide feedback on the development.
Sure, absolutely, Sarah. Well, this is just a kickoff meeting right now. This is going to be one of many, and this is informational and factual. We want to provide everyone with the same information all at once. We like doing breakout sessions. There's a variety of different ways that we want to engage with you. Our primary information sessions will be on Zoom. This format gives us a chance to focus and share key facts about our planned development in an accessible environment for everyone that's involved. Recent activities have raised concerns about the ability to hold a free-flowing dialogue, though through in-person sessions. We'll also be reaching out to individuals on one-on-one conversations and answering, as Sarah said earlier, answering via our website some of the questions we may not have been able to get to tonight. And finally, we will be sharing updates consistently on the development as we incorporate your feedback into our development planning. So this is an ongoing process, and we invite the participation of the community and we welcome it. But kicking this off, we wanted to make sure that we provide all of the information at once about this community. There's been a lot out there, and it's important that everyone knows from us as the developer what this is all about as far as where we are in the planning process. So thank you for the question.
Okay, I'm going to go back to AJ, I think, for this question. This question is whether residents, whether we screen for whether they're on a, I guess, a child predator list or a sex offender list, I believe is what they're asking. So
Yes, so I mentioned earlier for AB 109, if folks are a sex offender, that's a disqualifier. So it is in the HUD regs for the voucher. So they would be screened for that.
okay. And again, there's another question about what requirements the residents have to go through in order to live there, including we already addressed drug testing, but whether they have to have gone through drug or alcohol treatment or mental health counseling, job counseling, or any of those types of things.
Gosh, I wonder if we had to do that, how many people would have housing? I don't think very many. But no, for just like you or I, if we're going to go rent a unit, we get qualified based on income, based on type of property. So this one has the age restriction. There's occupancy restrictions on the unit, so you can have 10 people living in a 1-bedroom and things like that. So it's definitely with the voucher layer. Obviously, there's rules with that, like I mentioned earlier. But for just any individual that's coming to rent from National Core, they have certain limits, like for income and things like that. But we don't go farther than that. It's about really meeting people where they're at. Sometimes giving someone that bed and that place to rest. You can treat medical issues, mental health needs, and other things. So really giving that opportunity to another human being is truly a gift.
Thanks. Okay, there is a question here about sidewalks and the fact that the development does not currently, or the site area does not currently have sidewalks in front of it. I think, Michael, you're probably best suited to address that one.
That's correct. Currently, the site does not have sidewalk, curb, and gutter. Part of our development proposal, we will complete that infrastructure. Right now, we are working with Public Works, and we would love to complete curb, gutter, sidewalk past the Montessori school, connecting it to the shopping center right there. And so we would be providing and doing those additional infrastructure improvements that, you know, to continue the sidewalk along, you know, working with Public Works to include those additional improvements.
Okay. Give me just a sec. A lot of these questions, there's a lot of questions that are very similar to one another or are kind of duplicate questions. There is a question about whether whether attendees might be able to meet with some of the property managers at some of our existing properties. So either Michael or Lorraine, maybe that's a question that you can address.
I think if you want to reach out and provide your contact info, again, we'll be reaching out to community members, community stakeholders. And right now we are also have offered up tours with San Dimas, a couple members of the San Dimas City Council. And so that's something that we do to you know, to everyone. I think we're proud of what we develop. And so, sorry, Lorraine, if you have more to add to that.
Yeah, no, not at all. I just wanted to add that please go on our nationalcore.org website. There's a list of our portfolio of all of our communities. The one that you saw with the veteran is in Pomona. Obviously the Rancho Cucamonga property, Day Creek, and then there's one in Glendale. But we have several other buildings and communities within this area and in the San Gabriel Valley. So please look on our website. The addresses are there. See what we build. I think you'll be really pleased. Thank you.
There is a question about the letters from the San Dimas City Council and Laverne City Council, and whether we're planning to respond or meet with the City Council members and residents. I think, Michael, you kind of started talking about that. I don't know if you want to elaborate further on those efforts.
Yeah, so our understanding is there's a city council meeting tonight in San Dimas. I believe they're going to be continuing discussion on those letters. Our understanding is Supervisor District 5, Catherine Barger, has also provided a statement, as well as LACDA. We are communicating with the city managers of both San Dimas and Laverne, keeping them apprised of our modifications for this development, again, trying to address high concern. And so we're, in close communication with them as well. And part of our outreach process, again, continuing our next meeting on the 25th and on the 3rd, we'll provide, more information as we progress.
Okay, there is a question here from Isabel about how people will be prioritized and selected for placement once the apartment community is in operation, and whether priority might be given to local seniors, folks from San Dimas or Laverne. So I think both Michael and AJ, you might have information you can share on that.
I'll start and kick it to you, AJ. So, we will be partnering with the County of Los Angeles. Our members will come from the CES system, the coordinated entry system. Again, the way it works is it prioritized spa. So these are, they're priority for people in this area. AJ, if you have more to add on that.
No, I think you covered it. It kind of layers the filters. So yes, the spa, the age, and the income limits, things like that. And then any type of disqualifiers, those would be added as well. But yeah, it's fairly simple process, just like you are going to a location. But yes, it does mention the spa for the CS process.
And sorry, to define, a spa is a service planning area. This is a mapping system provided by CES and the coordinated entry system.
Okay, there's a question here from Robert that our website states that, again, the property management periodically inspects all units and buildings and common areas. And I think that he's looking for more detailed information about how frequently the properties are inspected and repaired.
So I can add to that. There's a regular cycle that property management leadership schedules throughout the year, walks of each site to note repairs that need to be done, upgrades that need to be done. They have an annual budget where they can replace things like furniture for the common areas, upgrade the television in the community room to a larger size or needs to be replaced, anything like that. As for the inspections, it kind of varies. So if there is, let's say, I don't know, a need for checking for leaks, and there was a leak that spawned the need to check for leaks, they'll do that. And they might go through the unit, just like, again, an apartment that we have, the where I live in. And same thing for inspections. If there is need or reason to inspect, there will be an inspection notice given and they go and inspect the unit, just like anyone else.
If I could add a little bit more to that as well. And again, our manager lives on site. They'll be there, 24 hours. We also have our resident service folks, as well as the people concerned on site. And a lot of our programming, especially for senior properties, what we do is there's a lot of events. And so our staff is knocking on doors, holding events, we're creating this sense of community. And so it might not be, a scheduled annual inspection, but we're knocking at the door, we're bringing our folks into the community room, We're holding events for them. We're having education classes, healthy living classes. And so these are some of the items where I would say, it might not be an annual inspection, but our staff is there every single day. We're checking in on our residents, and it's been a great success. It's not just housing, it's the strength of the services that we provide for them.
And I think to add one little thing, one of the joys of this work is there are times, and I think probably Lorraine could chime in too about this, is when we're setting up, like, let's say a community tour of the site. Some folks are just so ultimately proud of how beautiful they've made their home, how they have their plants and their photos of their family or their pet. And it's so lovely to see such pride in their home. So really just being able to see glimpses of that, and then willing to show their unit for walkthroughs if we have a community event or something like that, and being willing to share. But the fact that they truly make it their own, it's just, it's beautiful.
Yeah, AJ, typically many of our residents open their door. They love to show off their unit and invite anyone interested, people who are interested on the tour to see where they live. It is not the affordable housing that some of us way back when had a feeling for what it looked like or what it did look like. This is a very different model now. And that's why it's important to actually, when you have the opportunity to come on one of these tours and see what it is all about. Last tour I went on was, you hear these stories, but of a teacher had recently retired and living on her son's couch because she couldn't afford a place of her own because she had lost her husband and had some health issues and looking for senior housing. And she was a part of the tour in the community that wasn't actually on our list to even get affordable housing. But you hear these stories all of the time and you recognize the need.
Okay. Great. There is another question here about whether if the primary tenant is of a certain age, whether that's 65, 62, depending on what it's restricted to, can they have individuals or family members living with them living with them in the unit? I don't know if that, AJ, I don't know if that's a question you might be able to answer.
I can answer for some circumstances. So St. Isidro is another site that we serve seniors who have experienced homelessness, and they sometimes need caregivers because they're going through health situations, and they often need someone to help them do daily living tasks and things like that. And so it's an approval process to have the person move in. Everyone who comes in has to be on the lease and approved to move in. So they have to go through the same process and all of that. But it's been a really positive experience to have folks get the caregiving they need to stay in their home versus having to go to a hospital setting. And sometimes the situation could be hospice because care was delayed for so long, and this allowed space for them to transition in that space.
Thank you. There is a few questions about services. I think in terms of police and fire, who would be servicing the site? So I think, I don't know who wants to take this one.
Yeah, so I could start a little bit. I think I've been seeing some of the fire comments. So again, all of our buildings that we develop, these are 100% fire. We have a fire sprinkler system. Right now, we County of Los Angeles is, sheriffs, county fire is doing it now. What we found, and I believe kind of the question is who. Is there going to be an impact on services in this area? And what I could say is what we found in our communities is there's a lot less calls from fire and police when folks are in housing. What happens, there's, I don't know if you all know this, but it costs, roughly taxpayers in LA County approximately $35,000 a year for individuals living on the streets. We're able to cut that number in half once those individuals are housed. And so what we found in our developments is, there's we get a lot less calls. Right now we're in the process of collecting statements from law enforcement agency and our other communities to kind of demonstrate how problem properties, how many calls they were getting before we got involved, and showing, a reduction in those calls. And I don't know, AJ, if you have anything more to add to that.
No, you said it really well. I think the only thing I would add is that we have really strong relationships with the PD and fire departments around us. So we have that clear communication back and forth for almost every single community we have, if not all. And it's really beneficial. It could be education for the site. It's teaming up with the services to create fire safety education, things like that. But no, Michael, you covered it all.
And right now we're again, we want to be cognizant of time. I think we have enough time for maybe one more question. We want to make sure that we end on time. And again, to reiterate that this is the first meeting of many. Again, we will be issuing notifications or an invitation for the 25th, as well as the 3rd. We will also be reaching out, individually to folks and stakeholders. Our goal is to continue outreach, throughout construction, throughout occupancy. And so if we could do a quick one, we want to make sure that we end on time. Go, sorry, sir, if you have one more.
There's a question about how recently a potential resident would have to have experienced homelessness in order to qualify for the development. No, AJ, do you know the answer to that one?
So it depends on the type of voucher we get issued, but I believe it's literal homelessness, meaning that the person would be experiencing homelessness within the past year. Some vouchers do require chronic, meaning 3 episodes, but I believe it's literal. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. But in essence, it could be someone that, again, went through this chain of events, medical crisis, and, throughout a year, a lot happens in a year, and we all know that, led them to their circumstance, and they went through the system, they got matched to us, and they come to us to reside and go through the approval process. So it could be, a year, it could be longer.
No, thank you for that. And again, thank you everyone for joining tonight. We hope this was informative. Again, we plan to hold additional meetings. We will present that information. We will present the new design that we are working on, hearing some of the feedback from the community. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time to attend and to learn more about our development. We'll be reviewing your feedback as we prepare for our May 25th and June 3rd events. And we will share what we can about, this evolving development during those programs. Thank you so much. Appreciate those who signed up and registered. We look forward to, meeting again. Thank you so much.